Do do do.
Oh,
Man, bro, did you watch Price is Right?
of course. I mean, people always tell me I look like Drew Carey, so I have to have seen. I have to have seen Price is Right at least once, and we are
Yeah.
live.
Oh, let's rock, rock, rock. Boy, I'm
Oh,
getting
let's rock. Let's get
excited.
people these prizes. Let's Price is
Woo!
Right. Come on down.
Boy, I'm getting so pumped up right now. It is draft day, and it's just starting to hit that I believe the
Woo!
Pistons. I think that they can get a really good player tonight or two.
I feel like now that we're past the funeral of what was the lottery, I feel like people are like reining in and realizing, oh yeah, being fifth is still a top 5 pick and a really good draft. And
Yeah.
like, even though we're not getting the guys that are known stars like Vic or Scoot, the guys that we know, you're right. I am no Drew. I'm way crazier than Drew. And that's saying something because Drew's
Shout out
kind of
Chuck.
crazy. But anyway,
Shout out
um,
Chuck.
oh yeah, we love Chuck. But anyway, like I think now that people are reining it in, it's like, oh yeah, there's still real star power at the top of this draft, even at 5. And, especially the names that we're hearing that, the Pistons are reportedly zoning in on. I think people are realizing, oh yeah, not only can these guys potentially help our team right away, but these guys can be pretty badass in the long term.
Man, I really, really, really like how things are starting to shape up, and it's something that I said like towards the end of the season. I said fans, as soon as you get to draft, that's their season. That's what we're
Yep.
actually here and playing for. They're going to be happy. They're going to see the hope. They're going to start to remember exactly what Chuck Brewer put here. And we still have Cade. And Steve just walks in like a boss. He just slides the fourth one at the same time as the stream starts to just
Been too
go
long
from
since I've been able
pictures
to do that.
to HD. It's Steve. Listen, man. Hey, bro. Got that was a nice listen. He got something dropping at 4 for y'all. I'll just say that. Tune in at 4. He has the real kind of draft preview primer. Before we go on our big show tonight at 7:30, you guys want to tune in tonight, 7:30 p.m. And yes, we are live. And we might, no, not might, we are. We're gonna have some fun tonight live. We're gonna
We
have the
might have
Brody.
some fun. There's a slight chance.
Come on, bro. Come on, bro. Sean Murphy gonna be in the building.
I'm looking forward to it, man.
Man, listen, bro. I'm geeked for this draft. This is already good. This
Yeah.
is already good. This is
Yeah.
about to be live, man. This is about to be lit.
Steve,
Let's rock.
from your sense, for one, are you kind of relieved that people are starting to come around that like, oh yeah, no, this is like a really good draft. Like there's still something to be excited for at 5. But also like, is this like your Christmas day? Like, is this like waiting for the presents to be unwrapped at the bottom? And then what does post draft look like for you? Are you like, is it like an elf where it's like, now we start working on next year's Christmas and you immediately start putting together your big board? How does that work?
Well, yeah, I'm happy people are excited for the draft, as I am always excited for the draft. So, yeah, absolutely. The other part of it, honestly, like for me, it's like a Christmas that never ends. I already have my big board started for next year. I want to say it's like 87 names deep already. I can give you the
Oh my
exact name.
gosh.
Yeah, I
Steve,
mean,
you're sicko, bro. You're sicko.
that's why that's what I always say, draft sicko. And most of us that are in the community say that as well. 84 names, excuse me, 84 names deep
Oh
right now.
yeah,
And that's not even with like
measly
the couple
84,
freshmen
not
stuff.
87.
Hey.
Yeah. You were really slacking, Steve.
I
Gonna have
love
to have
y'all,
you pick it
man.
up. I'm kidding.
But yeah, I mean, one of my obsessions is just watching tape of dudes in college and watching tapes of the next generation, because I think that's just, to me, it's just fun to
Oh,
try
it
and figure
is.
out who the next guys are going to be, you know?
Yeah, it's also like it's fun to see those glimpses of what people can do, and also like it's fun to watch young players figure it out in real time. You know what I mean? And that's like something you can like really see in tape. Like especially like I love looking back on moments with like Jalen Duren and real like having like the moments where like he's like, how did I do that? You know what I mean? Like when
Yeah,
you can go back and like find those things in tape, it makes it so much more fun.
man.
Yeah, if I
I
can get
agree.
on my soapbox for a minute too, I think the transition from high school to college is when to do it too, of like get an idea of what's coming in. all that stuff. Anything before that, I think, is a little bit too premature, i.e., like what happened with Imani Bates, a couple other people too. Like, you can't anoint them too early. You got to wait and
Yep.
let them mature, get their game. And then when they're coming in college, be like, okay, this is what you can expect. But don't place those expectations on them too early. It's just unfair.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, I want to shout out definitely Mr. Jones and Bashir for supporting the stream. And I want to just shout out everybody who's on the live with us right now for supporting. Definitely going ahead and hit the like, hit the subscribe.
Smash that mother like button.
But let me do something that Sean don't be doing. Look, I need you guys to also go and follow From Half Court, please. It's great work. It's great content. I love what we all do. I love what we have, but I'm also a fan of these guys too. I am. So definitely go over there, punch that clock, and at Resball Pod. Steve, listen, tell them all the different places they can find you, man.
So yeah, I have my own podcast, Resball Pod, this week. I've been dropping things left and right. I talked about on Monday the players I still don't know what to do with. One of them was connected to the Pistons this week. The other one was players that I think didn't receive enough love along the 2023 NBA draft process. Andy and I last night, aka Data Driven Piston Fan, and I gave our picks for who we want at number 5 and discussed a bunch of different, rumors that have been out there this week about the Pistons, who's gone up, who's got down in their eyes, supposedly. And then you can also find my Substack. I'm dropping my final big board today, final rankings. I give my tier breakdown of who I think the different tiers are in this. And then I'll give a little blurb for 1 or 2 players within those tiers to give you an idea of what their game is, background, all that other stuff. So resball.substack.com. You can also do Resball Pod, Google, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you hear podcasts.
Hey, Steve, man, you are a community fan favorite. And you know what's cool is that I can say that about a lot of you guys, man. I really personally want to commend you. Steve, thank you. I'm grateful. We are grateful. You've kept us informed, very well informed. You brought great content to this channel, and you already provide a whole wealth of it to the draft community. And Sean, man, just as always, like I said, I can't wait to get it going tonight. Your insight, your camaraderie, and your ability, you're just way with words, man. Yeah, you're something special. I
appreciate you, man.
I'm gonna say this, like, hey, I always tell you this. I'll say it on the stream. Stay consistent and keep crushing, man. Definitely. But I'm grateful for you guys. Steve is the GOAT, man, and I'm glad that you guys are getting your due. Please follow these guys and support as much as you can. I wanted to ask you guys something before we get into just the draft of it all. You know, because I saw somebody say, watch Troy go ahead and trade that number 5 for Tobias. And we also hear a little bit of noise that the Pistons might have been in on some conversations about Jeremy Grant as well as one of the teams that might pursue him. You know, I just want to kind of get the free agency stuff, just a few minutes real quickly. Is there anything that you guys are leaning towards, anything that you're liking from any of these reports, anything that you're hoping the Pistons actually do? Sean looks like he's ready to go.
I'm just curious to see how Portland winds down and what happens there, just because that whole situation, they're trying to reportedly thread the needle where they want to try and compete now and appease Dame and go for a title, but at the same time, they don't want to give up Scoot. And I just don't think that's feasible. And so I know that, like Jeremy commanding that type of money is exactly what we expected. I know Detroit is definitely going to, if Jeremy isn't going to go to Portland, I mean, it's going to be Detroit. And I think, that was just confirmed from today's reports. But I think really what it's going to come down to is how Damian Lillard's feeling. That I think that is going to dictate it's going to dictate what a lot of teams do, obviously, but I think that's going to dictate where Jeremy Grant ends up, in my opinion, because if Dame says, all right, I'm staying, we're going to try to win it now, we have what we need, then, that's just a situation I don't think Jeremy can pass up, especially if they're going to give him the bag as well. But at the same time, I don't know if Dame's going to be feeling that way, especially if they draft Scoot and don't trade that pick. It's going to be a fascinating 72 hours.
Hey, look, man, that's our NBA coverage right there, man. From Half Court, always on it. Steve, brother, how are you feeling about some of these reports, man? These free agency reports coming out.
I've said it time and time again. This is not the free agent class to be throwing a bag at anybody. As much as we like Jeremy Grant, I think that's a bad idea. Next offseason, with restricted free agents that you could pry away, like a Trey Murphy or like a Jaden McDaniels, who fit perfectly in both the age range and the skill range that the Pistons need. I think that's better long-term potential. That being said, I am not against throwing money like 25 to 30 million at either Cam Johnson or at Jeremy Grant, because those two make sense. However, I think if you do that, you have to move Bojan and Burks. I understand that's not a popular opinion, but I think that clears your books a little better. Burks obviously is going to expire, so maybe that's not a big deal. You can still move on with him, but I think Bojan, that will clear more stuff. And also, there's going to be a log jam there with Bojan and with Jeremy Grant. I don't think you can play them together, and whoever is there at 5 is probably a wing. Somebody has to go to the bench, right? And again, Bojan, to me, the more I've looked at it, I don't dislike him. I just think it's best for the team and for him to move to like a contender for some extra draft capital or whatever in the future. One thing that Data Driven Pistons fan brought up last night is the new CBA and how much second round picks are going to be very valuable in the future. You've already seen the Pacers start to stockpile them. I wonder, I mean, most of us don't want Bojan moved for future second round picks. But if you're forward thinking and if you're a small market team who can't afford to get into luxury tax territory, then that might be something you consider as like, let me stockpile these in the future for when I need them, for when I'm going to be even more hamstrung in my finances.
Man, you guys are on point today. And this Kyle Kuzma stuff, did y'all see those reports of him wanting like 30 million? I couldn't even finish my sentence. I don't even know what to entertain there.
Thank you. Yeah, he's down.
I'm entertaining the next button. That's what I'm entertaining with him wanting 30 mil.
No, we were like at most, if you had to pay like the Detroit tax, I'm probably giving him 20 million if
yeah, that's what I was about to say, like, and I thought that was generous. You know what I mean? Like a pat on the back. Welcome to Detroit, 20 mil a year. Like, let's get it. Well, I want 30 a year. Oh, I think you can. Like, bye.
Like, whoa, man, I can't. That's just too much. That's just too much. Hey, Aaron, man, shout out to Aaron, man. Yeah, that's a hard pass for me, man. I like what he can bring, but at that price, ooh. And maybe he's just trying to start his bidding up. Maybe he's trying to land somewhere between 20 and 25. But 30 mil, that was just kind of wild for me, man. But the Pistons have set themselves up pretty well. This is a draft where if they wanted to kind of get back into the first round again and take a couple of those number one tools that Troy Weaver says they need, but they don't have, they could actually do that in this draft. I'm hoping that the home run option that he talked about is them picking at number 5 and then trading back into the first round. Or like you guys were kind of alluding to, that Bojan trade, kind of getting him off to Utah or Dallas. Sean, I told you earlier, it just feels like Bojan is the most Dallas Mavericks player of all time.
Yeah, just thinking about him fitting alongside, Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, he would help with spacing the floor. He wouldn't help any of their defensive woes, but we don't have to tell them that. I think the big thing, it is going to be interesting to see. If there's a world where, I know reportedly Taylor Hendricks is in consideration at 5, but if there's a way where, I know the ultimate name that's most likely we're going to be seeing drafted at that spot as of right now is Asar Thompson. If there's a way we can somehow walk out with both those guys, I know Troy's probably hell-bent and working the phones and seeing if he can make that possible, because, we know that he was considering Jalen Duren at 5 last year if Jaden Ivey wasn't on the board as well. So potentially that could be the sign of Troy might want to go get both of them. If you want, he might want to have his cake and eat it too. We've seen him try to do it in the past.
And he has done it in the past. That's the great thing. And we pressed him. I talked about this on some of the other Wilbur Sports shows. We pressed him a little bit about, do you kind of see this draft being as rich as some of your previous ones? And he was just like, yeah. Man, I don't know who he's looking at. As the draft kind of gets beyond the lottery, there are some good value picks there, but it almost feels like he's going to have to hit a home run by getting back into the lottery, and so obviously he has the assets. If we have the capital to be able to make something like that happen, I'm not going to be surprised if he does. Mike Curtis of the Detroit News, I was willing to say I'm not going to be surprised if they get 2 first-round picks this year. Mike Curtis said, I'm not going to be surprised if they wind up with 2 lottery picks this year. And that would be an absolute home run. That means that they would have to pick at 5, and Bojan would probably be in the move. He was asked that as well in the pre-draft press conference, and he said, listen, we love our players. Kind of like how we've eloquently said, hey, look, we love Stu, we love Bojan, but if the right deal presents itself, just like we stated with Jamie Grant, we love Jamie Grant. But Jalen Duren, man, became available. You have to make that deal every single time. So it's like, yeah, if they get a deal like that, it would be really, really cool to see them come away with a couple different wing players, or even like a wing and a guard, like an Anthony Black, to be able to come back and say, hey, look, now we have depth. Lindsey Hunter and Darren McCarty, they were saying that this is more or less like the depth draft. And I wouldn't be surprised if he came around with 2 or 3 solid players, man. I would be that's my obviously it's not as ecstatic as getting Cade or even Duren and Ivy, but in terms of can it supplant that first year draft, that Killian Sadiq Isaiah year, I think he has an opportunity to do that actually tonight.
Well, and you need you need role players. You need guys who fill the gaps. You need if we saw anything from this championship run, it wasn't just Jokic. It wasn't just Murray. It was Aaron Gordon. It was it was Christian Brown who was.
It was all the former Detroit Pistons.
Yes, but in all seriousness, properly casted, right? Put in the right position. You know what I mean? Not in a situation where they're relied on to be the star. Bruce Brown alongside Nikola Jokic is a lot better than Bruce Brown alongside a guy who thinks he's Nikola Jokic. I'm sorry, Kool-Aid. I'm not trying to burn Drummond too much today. I promise. I'm not.
It's okay. It's okay. Right now,
I was watching him play Fortnite last night, by the way.
Right now, I'm just about this guy right now, okay?
Got Ish, though. Ish, man, being on every team in the NBA. I'm glad he got a title.
Dude, he so deserved it. I was so happy to see Ish win the title.
The journeyman, man. And he works and plays so hard, man. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Let's see here. Thank you, Sean. Detroit starters as role players in Denver worked. But guys, let's talk about specifically 5. How do you, Steve, I want to go to you first, man. How do you see this thing shaking out?
How I would like to see it shake out definitely would be that you take one of Asar, Jarris Walker, or now Taylor Hendricks. I think Cam Whitmore is probably we know Troy Weaver normally keeps things close to the chest, but seeing there's multiple reports about Cam kind of falling out of favor, and then the medical stuff came out, I think there's too much smoke there. And I've broke it down this way. While I still like Cam, he is last place in a lot of boxes when you put him next to Jarris, when you put him next to Taylor, when you put him next to Asar. Cam has the shortest wingspan. He's also the shortest guy in that, and his overall feel of the game is severely lacking when you put him up against those guys. So I think maybe if there's a trade down scenario, as long as the medical stuff is there, then yeah. I mean, I'm fine. I am going all in on Jarris. I love Jarris Walker. He's definitely my guy. There's a bunch of different things I can break down, but for the sake of time, I mean, defensive foundation is number one, what it is, multi-purpose defender, like an OG Anunoby, the passing chops, and ability to run a defense at such a young age, like a Bam Adebayo. That's, I think, what exactly the Pistons need. They need that defensive foundation. To me, that's more of a concern than shooting and everything else. But if they walk away with one of Asar, Jarris Walker, or Taylor Hendricks, that's the ideal scenario, in my opinion. If they could add an extra first-round pick from that, great. I know the trade down scenario was talked about with Utah at 9, but if they traded down and missed out on one of those 3, I would have a hard time not criticizing the draft, because all 3 of those guys do have major, role player. Tayshaun, at the very minimum, one of them could be a Tayshaun.
That's a great point. That's a great point. That's my fear in trading back is you got to make sure you hit the home runs in some other way, because it's going to be tough. Jarris Walker, Asar Thompson, man, Taylor Hendricks. And for me, at least, more primarily, I want to be fair. You've heard me since January, since you have kind of briefed me on some of these things as well. And we kind of went through these numbers, went through these videos. Asar Thompson and Jarris Walker was my high potential guy was Asar. But the guy I thought could come in and help us 2 ways right now, I was man, Jarris. And that's where, you started to really coin the whole triple beef.
Yeah, and can I talk about the like home run swing, or I like to take the big swing comment from Troy Weaver?
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to connect that to Asar. That's incorrect. All three of those guys I just named are home run swings. If you're taking Taylor Hendricks at 5, that's probably the biggest home run swing because you're banking on him developing more ball skills and perimeter defensive skills. Jarris Walker, another gigantic home run swing. You're betting on him being like more of the Bam Adebayo with a 3-point shot outcome. And yeah, absolutely. Asar, I've said it a lot. He's like an Andre Iguodala type of player. All three of them are the big swing.
Ooh, Iggy, I like that comp. I like that, man. I really do. And you're right, man. You got me really, really hyped for those two players in particular. And remember, at the time, I was more for Amin time at the time. And when we went through it, I was like, yo, Jarish and Asar, these guys kind of fit. I don't think that we at that time we had gone through Taylor Hendricks, but I do like him. And you're right. If you miss out on one of those three, this continues to be my top 3. Mike Curtis, it was his top 3 as well. Sean, is it your top 3 as well? In whatever order.
Yeah, that's my top 3. It's the, it's obviously it's Asar Thompson, it's Jarris Walker. Obviously I know Cam Whitmore is a guy that, is like an obvious fit. I personally, like I'm with Troy and like if Asar is indeed, like above him, like I agree that I don't think Whitmore is like this like significant can't miss prospect compared to like these other guys that like a lot of people have been building him up to be. I know his athleticism, his appetite is, I know his dunks are thrilling. I know his athleticism is, tantalizing. But I think if you look at the other prospects available, I think, especially like Jarris Walker, we've been coining him, like I know Steve loves him, but we've talked about him day one. Like he's like the Troy Weaver like prospect, literally built in a lab, right? Like everything about him, it's like you out of the box are getting a great NBA player.
Yeah.
I think, at the same time, like if you can also walk out with a guy like Asar Thompson and Taylor Hendricks, who, Hendricks, especially his length alongside with his base of shooting right now, the potential upside of what he could be, Asar is also just a super high character kid. And the more you look into the Thompson twins, by the way, like these are just freaking kids who want to hoop. All they care about is basketball. Like they had like iPhone 5s up until like last year, which for like kids their age is like a big deal. And so you also look at the fact that like, and you listen to them talk, like they're not here to like to take part. They're here to take over. Like these kids want to be great and they know their stuff about hoops. Like I honestly think like if you're betting on the swing with Asar, it's not just because of the talent and the athleticism and everything he has that makes him an upside there. I think you're betting on the person. Because man, I think the Thompson twins are cut from a different cloth.
They are. And from everything I've heard from sources, that these guys, these guys are hard workers. They want to be great, and that for a long time they've been the alphas. This isn't just something where they're talking like, oh, we're going to the NBA. For a long time they have trained like we're here to be the alphas. And I was talking about this, I think, with Jalen earlier. Welcome to the panel, Jalen. That
beautiful bastard.
With Asar, out of all of those players, Asar is the one out of those 3. When you're talking Jarris Walker, Taylor Hendricks, Asar Thompson, Asar is the only one of those 3, in my opinion, that's been training to be a number 1, to actually be a guy that's going to go out there and be a star. Some of the other players, I think when we hear people talk about them, even though I think that Jarris and Taylor can reach some pretty good heights, you generally hear people talk about them being kind of filling a role in the wing, potentially not starting. That's what you're hearing. And so, man, sheesh. Jalen, I want to hear your thoughts on this, man. I want to get your thoughts on it. We were talking about it earlier.
Mm-hmm. First off, what's going on, everybody? I've been I haven't talked to Sean in so long, it seems like.
It's good to see your face, my guy.
But for me, with our pick, like, I think I want Asar. I'm very big on Asar. I had to think about it because Steve's been trying to convince me this morning or this afternoon about Jarris and stuff. But yeah, I'm very big on Asar Thompson, Asar Taylor, and Jarris Walker. Those are my 3.
Yeah. My one thing with picking Jarris is like I feel like I feel like there's a lot of certainty in what you're going to get, and like you're definitely like there is like a lot of upside that you're swinging on. I think there's this like conversation about like he doesn't have like like that he's like more of like a floor guy. I think people are like not really giving credit to like what he actually could be and the ceiling that he has. I just at the same time, when I think of like what's the one prospect at 5 you could envision yourself wanting to vomit if you ended up passing on him. Arsar Thompson's that guy to me, man. Like just the way that he is and like the way that his overall like trajectory could be. Like I honestly think, like he of the guys that we could draft at 5, if you're asking me who I'm most confident could be a star, I think it's Arsar Thompson.
Yep, and that's kind of what I don't know. I feel like that's been his mentality. They've always trained that way. They haven't just fit in. They've always kind of trained from being ahead, trained to be the star. Steve, man, what's your take on it? Asar Thompson versus kind of Jarris Walker, Taylor Hendricks. Do you see the ability to have a little bit more star quality with Asar Thompson over those two?
I think for the role and the team that he was on, it's easy to see that. But if you go back and look at Jarris's high school stuff at IMG Academy, like he brought up the ball a lot of times. If you listen to the No Ceilings interview with Marcus Sasser, he said in practice and at Houston, we said that Jarris Walker is a guard because of all the things he can do on the team at Houston. That was really informative there. And again, the stuff back at IMG Academy where he was a monster from the elbows and in the mid post and stuff, passing and doing a bunch of things there. And even if you do believe like, oh, maybe his ultimate position is power forward, then that's fine. Most of us don't buy into Beef Stew being the 100% set starter down the line and a 3-man rotation in the front court of Jarris Walker, Isaiah Stewart, Jalen Duren. That's a fantastic foundation there. You can run Jarris Walker and Isaiah Stewart together. You can run the other two guys together. All three of them work. So that's there. And then same with Taylor Hendricks. Taylor Hendricks, ball skills. I think it almost 100% depends on ball skills. But man, he is a really instinctual shot blocker. That's the one thing about him that I think people don't talk about enough is, man, that guy really knows how to be a weak side rim protector. Maybe the best guy right there along with Jarris after Victor Wembanyama. And then again, the 3-point shooting, you don't find too many guys that maintain 39.4% from 3. I just think the role that Asar is asked at OT, that is more free flowing. They are more free to do things and not have to worry about it. Jarris was in the most constrained environment at Houston. If you know anything about Kelvin Sampson, you have to play defense. You have to play fantastic defense. That's another thing I don't think gets talked about enough. With Jarris, they basically turned the defense over onto him and still thought they would contend for a national title, which they did. They fell short. He was also the second leading scorer for Houston that was just veteran-laden with so many dudes there. He was the one that ended up being the number 2 option, number 1 option some nights. And then with Taylor Hendricks, he was the number 1 option there at UCF. So he did have a higher, offensive load than what I think he gets credit for. Yeah, I still criticize his ball skills and stuff, but I agree that he would attack closeouts very well and then build, similar maybe to like a Kawhi Leonard, similar maybe to like a Paul George there at that size that you don't see that much. So I don't think it's really necessarily like Asar has a clear quote unquote ceiling. I just think the role and what he's been asked to do is more free flowing and there's not as much clamps and constraints put on him in OTE as there is in NCAA basketball. Johnny Dawkins, another guy that at UCF, if you know anything about him, definitely you have to be able to play consistent offensive role, play consistent defense. So if he's able to do that, then it just shows the level of player he is.
Yeah, and Steve, I wanted you to be able to get to this comment on the screen from our resident bad boy Sean Corp. What you think?
Yeah, I think it depends on like if you view all 3 of these guys like the worst, quote unquote. To me, the worst of them would be a Taylor Hendricks. And again, I really want Jarris, so this is probably a bad question for me. I would take Jarris and then figure the rest of it out. But if they're looking at it as like all 3 of these guys have the same potential, like I said, they all could be the quote unquote big swing, home run swing Troy Weaver is looking at. It really depends on the deal after that, right? If maybe Oklahoma City falls in love with them and they have pick 12 and they have that treasure trove of picks, and we know that Troy Weaver has a working relationship with their general manager, Sam Presti, since that's who he's learned under. if he's like, hey, yo, man, I know you can't use all these picks in the future. Maybe give me like 3 or 4 of them. And then they're like, all right, we really love who's there at 4. I mean, that's just a no-brainer, right? You're just like, okay, I'll take the quote-unquote worst guy and get a bunch of future picks. It's how Memphis operates, right? It's why Denver all of a sudden magically traded for all these picks right now. It's how you reload your role players and how you fill out your roster. If you're not a free agent destination, that's something you probably have to say yes to. If it's like 9 and 16 again, Utah's like really trying to trade up and they give you just 9 and 16, I think that's more of a no for me because, again, the drop down in talent. And the one thing, too, if it's a smart general manager trying to trade up, I'm probably saying no to that as well, like Danny Ainge and Sam Presti, 2 of the best of being able to evaluate talent. If they're after somebody there, then I'm probably taking that guy anyway. And if I already, valued him high, then yeah, I don't think you can just trade down like that because if those guys are after them, yeah, no thanks. I'll take that guy and reap the benefits. You ain't Jason Tatum for Markelle Fultzing me, please.
Yeah, you should rethink all of your life decisions before you execute a trade with Danny Ainge. That's his rule of thumb.
Look, I've been, Jarris Walker, but Asar Thompson, I've just, for whatever reason, have kind of had this potential or this ceiling or this superstar, him having this quality a little bit over some of these other guys. It's going to be tough for me. As we've gotten now to draft day, I'm sitting here a little bit more split over those 2 prospects. But you're right. Jarris Walker is somebody that didn't get to show his whole bag at Houston. The handles were something that, we were kind of talking about for a while, especially on this platform. We kept saying, hey, look, there's a little bit more to Jarris Walker. He's not necessarily an Isaiah Stewart type of a player. Though he can potentially find himself playing that role, he's going to be a little bit more versatile with the way that he can handle the ball. As well, I feel like the way Jeremy Grant attacks sometimes on defense, his ability to play above the rim and get blocks, something that sometimes Stewart can struggle with. I feel like Jarris Walker has that a little bit more down pat, has a little bit more skill, has shown a little bit more in that area defensively. But from the 3-4, would you happen to agree with that? He's more 3-4, whereas Isaiah Stewart is more like 4-5. You guys agree? What you think, Steve?
I would say so.
Because that's been my thought. Hey,
that's pretty accurate. I think that's pretty accurate for that comparison. Yeah.
So it's tough for me, man. I'm torn. I am really, really torn on this, man. I really am between Asar and Jarris now.
I think no matter what, though, I think it's like you're getting I think both are going to be quality NBA players. Like if you're asking me, like I really like both prospects. Like it's honestly one of those situations where, like, honestly, I don't see, I like the odds of us trading out of the 5th pick at this point, I think are very low because I think from what it sounds like, at the very least, there's a prospect they really like enough to not want to trade that pick because the report suggests that Detroit's, asking price right now for that pick is high, so like I'm pretty sure Troy knows at the very least, who he wants to take, like has a good idea of who he wants to take the swing on at 5. But like to your point, like if we can trade back in at 10, even if there's a way that we could somehow trade with Utah, maybe they would like a package of Bojan, or maybe they're interested, in a Marvin Bagley or a James Wiseman in a combination to get some picks. Like, there's a lot of different things that can happen. So I think again, it's just a good problem to have if you're asking me.
Troy put him in a good position. This is why you have a Troy Weaver. Now he has to make good on it. But I was about to go to you, Jalen. Give you the platform for a little bit, man.
I don't think we can go wrong. It's a good 5 or 6 players. I think 3 that we can go with. I think Jarris Walker may be the most NBA ready out the 3 by chance, but I'm very big on Asar. I think the ceiling and the hype maybe has me a little bit with him, but like Sean said, it's like you don't want to pass up on a guy like that. You know what I mean? Just watching him, I watched him and his brother play yesterday or last night, and the potential's there. Is just a little more mechanics. Playing in that league is a little more free flow, like Steve said. It's not like more organized, but Jarris Walker, I think he's the most NBA ready. But I do think I take my chances taking Asar because the potential is there. I think we all can see it's there. Taylor Hendricks is a great 2-way player too. 6'9", I think. I'm pretty sure averaged about 15 or so last game, or not season, his freshman year. But out of Jarris and Asar, you can't go wrong. But like, I feel like Asar is going. He fits a little better. I don't know. But Jarris does too because we need some defense on the wing. He could play. I think he can guard maybe 3 through 5, maybe 2 through 5 if he needs to. But I don't know. I think Asar is my final pick. Um, I just think he has the most upside. We can get the shot there. Nobody's shooting crazy, like Steve said, but I think once we get that shot, he gets some NBA feel. I think him playing off the wing with Caden, Jaden to be fun. Fun to watch, but like I think it'd be fun too because I think it'd be a productive type of fun, not just highlight wise. You know what I mean? So I think
Yeah.
I think Asar can be that pick for us.
Yep. Yeah, I do too. I do too, man. I really like what I saw from him, and it's interesting. Steve said this early on. He was like he wanted to really avoid sounding like he hated any of these prospects because he was like they're all pretty good
Yeah.
prospects. He said there's 3 here, and I feel like that's more than you had pegged for the Pistons last year that you really were in love with. I feel like this is a draft that if you if you're going to be at 5, this is the draft to kind of be there. And this is why you tank. That number 31 pick, Steve, he had some pretty interesting names here. And I wanted to also ask you, Sean and Jalen, at number 31, what's your idea there? Obviously it could be involved in a trade to move up, but who are some players at the end of that first round or that you think that 31st could be utilized for that you're hoping the Pistons make a play for?
I'm of the opinion that I'm pretty firmly of the opinion that I don't think they're picking at 31. I'm of the opinion that that is going to be used in some form of trade package to get us back up into the lottery or into in there. Now, if they do end up keeping the pick and they do, if they do end up going there, my knowledge of the middle to late lottery is not as high as that of the actual lottery pool as of it is. But like what I will say is I expect it to be used in a very aggressive manner. Is that I know that doesn't quite answer the question adequately, but
it's a tough way. It's a tough question to answer because it's almost like we all know that really it's going to probably be like another lottery pick or a kind of mid-level first round pick. Like I'm
and it's
gonna have a
tough
tough
because
time
it's like,
seeing them really use that number 31 tonight with everything Troy was saying. If that's the way he goes with it, I kind of would be surprised if he actually picked that 31.
unless there's like this Isaiah Livers type player where like day one he can he can contribute in some light, or that you do believe in or see as an actual first round pick, which granted, if you're going to have that with 31st pick is probably the best one to have it. But at the same time, I just think you can package it with something, with something to move up higher into the draft against, say, the lottery.
That's got to be the strategy.
Yeah.
That has to be it. One player that I know kind of interested me was Anthony Black. He's just kind of shot up the draft board, but Ashton kind of told us, hey, look out for Anthony Black a long time ago. Now to kind of see him shooting up the draft board, it's like, those guys know what they're talking about. Obviously, they had some connection to him. They know his pedigree. They actually, one of the guys in rank management actually coached him. So listen, it's going to be a crazy, crazy, crazy time. And I put this up now because we got to start to wrap up the stream a little bit. Doug, we're getting going tonight at 7:30. And if we don't end the stream now, I don't know how we get Sean here.
Yeah, I got to get to Detroit.
Yo, man, we're pumped. We're excited. We're going to have the crew together. We're going to have the legend, Uncle Terry Foster, in the building. It's going to be a fun time. Hey, listen, the whole Lions Den, the whole side room is going to be full of just our friends, media personalities, and other industry, professionals, man. So we are excited. It's going to be a good time. Tune in Woodward Sports, all right? It's going to be on Woodward Sports, not on Woodward Pistons, but we will tap in on Woodward Pistons sometime tonight after the draft. It'll be late for us, but it'll be like 5 o'clock for Steve or something like that out in the West. But so look,
it'll be like 9 a.m. for Steve out in the West. He'll be getting his cereal.
Look, man, I love y'all. This has been awesome. Sean, it's only appropriate if you wrap this thing up for us.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, everybody listening around the world, this has been a special impromptu Woodward Pistons Table Talk pre-draft special. If you like this episode, be sure you smash that like button, hit that notification bell so you don't miss when we go live tonight or in the future. But also be sure that you're following all of us here on social media so you're not missing any of the latest and greatest content and work that we have going on. My boy Kool-Aid at Detroit Kool-Aid, myself at Sean Halfcourt, Jalen at Jalen HTV, and check out the CEO table as well, or CEO's office, my bad. And then also Steve at Res Ball Pod. Check out his Substack, all the great work that he's been doing for the draft. Be sure you're ready for tonight by using his work to sharpen up your brain. But with that, folks, thank you all for listening. We will catch you guys tonight on Woodward Sports and next time on Woodward Pistons Table Talk.